Hello and welcome back to That's So Scott. So I am super excited about today's video because I'm making some Halloween sewing content and so full disclosure, I did not intend to film this project, but I woke up this morning and I needed to finish it because I am currently filming this on Thursday, October 28th, and Halloween is on Sunday, and I actually need this particular project to be ready for Saturday, and so I've got 2 days to make it happen. Anyway, I got up this morning and I was like, I definitely want to make a video about this. Like, this project is going to be so cool. I definitely want to do a video. But I'm actually glad that I realized sort of late that I wanted to film, because I don't intend this to be like a tutorial, just because the pattern I'm using is actually part of a like Patreon rewards thing, and they, like, the pattern maker, and we're going to talk about it later, but the pattern maker actually has a tutorial video, and like, it's not my place to make another one, you know what I mean? But what I specifically want to talk about is how I sort of decided that I would use this specific pattern to do this specific project, and like how I sort of picked the fabric and all of that kind of stuff. I'll show you sort of how it's going, and then I might have a little bit of like sewing footage, and then we'll have the reveal at the end. Which, another thing about this is since I sew, I had a minor existential crisis about what I was going to do for Halloween. So my friends are actually having a bit of a Halloween party, and because I haven't seen most of them in like almost 2 years thanks to pandemic times, I decided that I would go because, you know, fully vaccinated, like all that fun stuff. And I have black masks that will match with my costume. But I had to figure out what I wanted to wear because obviously it's a costume party. Even though here in France they don't really do Halloween, all of my friends are from cultures that do Halloween, and like obviously we're gonna do it. So I originally had this idea that I was going to make like a Wednesday Addams slash like weird sister from the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina like sort of costume, because they wear like black with nice like white lace colors and that kind of stuff. And it would be something that I would like wear in general. And then I realized that I was biting off more than I could chew because I had already planned this project. So I've decided that my like final outfit is going to be like 50s like sailor ghost sort of thing. You'll see what I mean. There are actually like other things that I would love to make for this outfit, but I honestly don't think I'm gonna have time. So we're gonna try and keep things simple and just focus on the one piece that I'm making for this outfit that I'm actually going to 100% wear because it is so beautiful. So long intro aside, let's head on over to the table. I want to show you sort of my initial planning sketches, and I want to show you the pattern and the fabric that I used, and then we're going to take a tour of what I've done so far. And yeah, let's just get going. So let's head on over. So over here at my table, I have my sewing plans book, which I think at some point I'll probably do a kind of full flip through on this. I wanted to do something that was very clearly Halloween inspired, and you'll see I picked the fabric to do that, but I also wanted to be something that wasn't a costume. I wanted something that was going to look like just a Halloween inspired, just like really nice blouse. Because obviously I figured that it would be easier to do a blouse that has like kind of a really chaotic pattern than it would be to do like a dress or a skirt. Like, I would be able to sort of like schmooze it into normal wear if I just had the blouse. And so I think in September. Yeah, I think in September. No, this was actually in August. This pattern was released. So I am part of GERTIE's Camp Gertie Charm Scout like Patreon thing. And like, one of the reasons is that I do a lot of 50s sewing, and I honestly like really like her patterns. And the thing that she does that I think is really cool is, one, if you buy her patterns, almost always there's like some sort of like make your own adventure aspect to it. And a lot of them she'll do like series that you can actually like mix and match elements of different patterns in the same series together. And then when she does her Patreon stuff, sometimes she'll have a standalone pattern, so like this one, and then she'll also have ones that are like build onto, there's a skirt pattern that you can buy, and on Patreon there's a bodice pattern with a collar that you can remove and like do different things. So like, I really like that sort of style. So I do support her on Patreon, and I do have this particular pattern. And when I saw it, I was like, okay, I need this. Wait, let's take it out of my little envelope so that it's not so glary. So when I saw this, I was like, I am not like super into sailor stuff. Like, that's not necessarily my vibe, but this is so cute. And I love how like ridiculous this giant bow is. And so if you see, whoops, on the the back here, you've got some other like different little like variations and stuff. So I had like been planning to make this pattern with the giant bow. So this is actually the dress version, but I wanted to make the blouse pattern with the giant bow. And actually, if you look in here, somewhere, no, here. So if you look in here, I had actually already sort of planned out to do a mariner top where I was going to do a solid color with the collar and the bow and do like a floral as the top and like do sort of that. And so I had already planned, like I was already planning on making this blouse at some point, but then I started thinking that I wanted to do a Halloween version. And I found this website that has a bunch of stuff. It's a French one, but I think they actually do ship to different countries. It's called Ma Petite Mercerie, and I'll link it down below just in case you want to check it out. Like, not saying you need to buy fabric, but like in case you want to know. And they actually had a ton of Halloween fabric, and I was going through and like picking out, like looking at different things, and I found like the base fabric that I wanted to do, and like it's so beautiful. So hold on. So this is my base fabric. This is what I did the blouse for, and this is freaking gorgeous. I like love, it's very clearly Halloween. Like it is not that subtle, but it's also like somehow still very like elegant, which I love. And this is actually, I don't know if I have the edge here. So it's called Spooky Night by Grace Pop for Studio Fabrics. It is 100% cotton, which is what I like always go for. And it's one of those like sometimes printed cottons, like kind of like specialty printed cottons can be very like stiff and kind of meh, but this one's actually like really nice and soft. It's like a really good sort of like top fabric. So I found this one, and I actually was originally going to do a different combination, and then I was like kind of playing with a couple different combinations, and I saw this one with the fabric I chose for the collar and was like, no, that's the one. So I got this one for the collar, bow, and cuffs, which we'll see that in a bit. And this one, I think it's also a Grace Pop. Can I find the edge? That is the question. Here. So wait. Come on, y'all. Where's the name of it? So it is another Grace Pop one, but my thing cut off, so I don't actually have the name of it. Nerds. I don't know what this one is called, but I think it's like Skulls, or I don't know what it is. But also these are like, you know, seasonal fabrics. So at some point they will just not be on the site anymore, so it doesn't necessarily matter. But these are the two that I ended up doing. And I am actually gonna redo my nails. I did them this weekend, but I've been doing a lot of baking and dishes, so of course they've already chipped, but you can see like they go really well with the top that I'm gonna be wearing. So once I kind of saw these, I was like, okay, wait, this is gonna be so good. Like I could just like already visualize like how good this top was gonna be. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna get these fabrics, I'm gonna use this pattern, and we're gonna see how this goes. So I basically decided that I wanted to do the main bodice from the pumpkins, and then any other accent stuff I wanted to do in this black, just because I felt like it would be, not that either of these are subtle, but that it would sort of like tone back how very pumpkin-y it is. Like it's not gonna hide the pumpkins, and you'll see, it's not gonna hide the pumpkins in any way, shape, or form, but it is gonna kind of like, I didn't want it to look costumey, right? That's kind of what it came down to. I didn't want it to look costumey, so I wanted to have these sort of accents. And like, you know me, I always do, well, if you've seen any of my stuff on Instagram, you know that I always do, like, if I have any sort of thing where I'm doing like multiple fabrics, I always do sort of like specific things that I'm gonna accent like different pieces of the pattern. So I actually tried my absolute very best to get it all sewn one morning when I had the morning off of work, and I got pretty far, but I wasn't able to finish. So let's go take a look at the progress. We're gonna go and take a peek with Beatrice because the blouse is just kind of hanging out on Beatrice. So say hi to Beatrice, my dress form. Sorry, I'm gonna have my head cut off in this shot just so that you can actually see the blouse. So this is what I have got so far. She needs a really good press still at this point, but I've basically gotten the entire bodice done. I have the collar attached, and I actually have the sleeves done, but what I've done is I just stuck pins in them so that I could kind of see what it would look like all together. So wait, let me just go grab my pin cushion so I don't stab myself. So this is honestly one of the best little purchases that I have made in the past like couple of months, because I'm doing a lot more complicated sewing, and it was getting really like kind of frustrating to try and get pins when I was working and have like the pin cushion just like jitter away from me. So I got this little wrist one. So anyway, Now I won't stab myself. So this is one of the sleeves, and as you can see, I did a little accent cuff on it, and I did actually go through and like I triple checked that the part that would be showing was actually the directionality that I want. However, it just so worked out when I cut it that the skulls are all on the underside, so you like can't even tell. But yeah, so I have both of the sleeves done. I just have to then attach them, and then let's take a look at the back. Whoops, come on, Bia, let's go. So here is the back so far, and I will do a close-up with, like, I'm gonna take it off the form and I'll show you a little bit better close-up. But basically, this is how the collar kind of attaches, and I still have to do the zipper in the back here. I have put a bra on her so that I can, I kind of stuffed it a little bit more to be more my size. But yeah, so I still have to do the zipper, finish the bottoms, I have to attach the sleeves, obviously, and of course the giant bow is not actually on. So that is gonna be the project for today, and I had, one of my friends came over and was just like, honestly, like, I would not even put the bow on. And I'm like, I know, like, I see what you mean, it's gorgeous, but I want the giant bow. Like, I actually want this to be completely ridiculous. I know I said I didn't want it to be costumey, but like, I want it to be over the top. So one of the things that I actually did do, and here, let me go ahead and take off, because I actually need to make some progress. So one of the things that I actually did is I did add a little accent on the collar. So hold on a sec. So we'll let Bia have her privacy. So one of the things that I did is I actually did do this black cotton lace on the collar that I actually got it at Sauce Gren. So it was like super cheap, but it's 100% cotton lace according to the packaging. And I wanted to do a little accent on the collar. It just kind of felt unfinished, but I was deciding between black and cream, and I'll try and put a picture up here so you can kind of see. I laid both of them on the collar, and honestly the cream looked really, really good. But I figured that since I was using kind of over-the-top fabric, and since I was gonna do the over-the-top bow, I wanted to have an accent on the collar, but I wanted it to be a little bit more subtle. So I went for the black, and I'm honestly, like, I'm really pleased with how that came out. I think it looks really, really nice and just like adds a little something. So that is where we're at so far. I had a little bit of a snafu with a couple of things. So specifically, you're supposed to interface the zipper area, and if you notice here, my interfacing is fully just not stuck to my fabric. And this is something that is super fun. That basically every 6 months or so, I just like lose all capacity to do iron-on interfacing. It's a thing. Like, it literally every 6 months or so, it's just like it stops working for me, and then I like sort of relearn how to do it, and things are fine for another 6 months. It's weird. But I actually tried to use a thin interfacing that I, silly me, took out of the packaging, was like, I will fully remember what this is for. I will definitely not forget this. I did. It was for hems. It was not normal iron-on interfacing, and I managed to F up my iron. And so that's been a bit of a drama, but I managed to F up my iron. And so the day that I was working on this, I was trying to do this before I went back to work. So I didn't get a good like press going on the blouse. I did my best, but I was like trying to avoid the sticky bits on my iron because yeah, it was a whole thing. But yeah, so now we are good. I've got everything sorted out with the iron. So the first step is actually gonna be to do a really, really good press. And then we are gonna probably work on the sleeves. I actually, I've made a couple of Gertie's Patreon patterns at this point, and I almost always, at least for the first one, will follow along with a video tutorial. Not because I couldn't just do the instructions, but one, the Patreon patterns, like just, I don't know, in case you're into sewing and you're interested in checking out it, but you wanna like kind of see how it is before you buy. One of the things about the Patreon patterns is obviously they're turning these out like every single month. And so the instruction booklet is complete, but there are no pictures going along with it. So if there are any techniques that you've never done before, there's no pictures going along with it because there is always a video sew along that goes with it. So they've just kind of simplified the instructions for people who know what to do. Or like if you do the video the first time and then you make it again and you're like, no, I know what I'm doing, it's fine, I don't have to watch it. So I definitely, I could do the instructions most of the time. I can't think of any pattern that there was something that was just straight up a thing I had never, ever, ever done before. But I actually really enjoy doing the video. You know, I put it on and then I pause it when I need to like work on something or whatever, but I actually like the way that she does her video tutorials. So it's kind of fun to sew like with somebody, since I'm obviously usually sewing by myself. So I do recommend checking out the video tutorial for that. And that's the other reason that I'm not like going at all into detail about the construction. But yeah, so I think it's time for me to stop chatting and it's time to do a tiny bit of sewing. So I have given everything a good press and I got my sleeves put in over here, and I went ahead and I just serged, nope, here's the sleeve. So I went ahead and I just finished my seams. So now I'm at the point where I have to decide on the hem and the zipper. I also have some threads to cut. So I had already had to buy fabric for this project because obviously I didn't just have this gorgeous like Halloween fabric in my stash. Oh my gosh, I did not actually press the back seam. I'll do that after. So obviously because I had to buy fabric, I was like, okay, for kind of everything else, I want to see if I can just like shop my stash. And I managed to find this in the Euro zipper bin at my local store. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to use this for, but like, I'm just going to pick it up. Like, it's fun. I love like a good statement zipper. So actually this pattern calls for a lapped zipper, which is where, and I've actually never done a lap zipper, which is not entirely the reason that I'm not doing one. It is specifically because I want to use this zipper and I think it would look silly to like hide it. So basically a lapped zipper, you would have like one half where it's kind of over here, and then the other half you would do it so it would like have a little like fold over or whatever. But I don't really want to do that because I think that it's a shame to hide this like statement zipper. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put this in as a normal zipper. I'm not entirely sure how it's going to work like up at the top here, but the good thing is even if I F it up, it's gonna be hidden. Like the top of the zipper is all the way up here. It's like 2 or 3 inches under the bottom of the collar. So you're really just gonna see it on the back. So in like the pattern, they have like a specific way of doing the hem and the back so that you do the, like specifically for how you do the lapped zipper. And I'm actually gonna just sort of make up my own way, if you will, because yeah, so I don't know. And I think I might end up, because my zipper is like a tiny bit long. So basically, oh, I know what I'm gonna do. Okay, I see. So basically I need to have a quarter inch bottom hem here, and I want it to end basically here, which means that I'm gonna have about this much that is gonna be hidden under. And I think what I'll do is I might just like hand tack that in place so it doesn't like get in my way or whatever. I don't know. So I think the plan of action is I'm gonna do one part of the instructions, which is an 1/8 inch guide. And then I think I might press all around my hem, but I'm going to sew in my zipper before I do the hem because I want to have it hide the bottom of my tape here. So yeah, I don't know, we're gonna give it a go. So this is what I have so far, and I'm actually super weird where a lot of the time I don't actually try on while I'm making stuff. I wait until I get to like a more finished thing, which if I mess up is definitely a bad thing, but I don't know, it's just like the way I work. Anyway, so I ended up doing the zipper a little bit differently than I had planned because once I started like playing around with everything, I was like, oh wait, okay, I see like why I need to do it this way. So you can see I've got a little bit of the zipper tape showing, so I will have to just tack that down kind of by hand to hide it. But here's the thing, I'm actually planning on wearing this top tucked into a skirt basically most of the time, so like it's not even gonna matter. And then you can see up at the top, I basically just kind of like narrowed my stitches, but when you put that in, it like is totally hidden. Okay, so the one thing I will do after I try this on is I will have to tack down the top of my zipper tape because this is like a chunky metal zipper. I am not even gonna screw around with trying to cut it off. I am literally just going to tack it down, and I think what I might even do is actually do it on my machine and just sort of open out my seam allowance here and just like stitch right there just to kind of like keep it in place. So that is where we're currently at. So let's go ahead and see how it looks. So here is what we have so far. I will say that it is quite low cut for what I usually wear. Like, I don't think this is super low cut in general, but just for the things that I normally wear, this is kind of low cut. But let's take a look. So I think that I like that the cuff is actually quite big. I was looking at it, I was like, I feel like the cuff is really wide, but I have definitely made patterns where there's a cuff and it gets to be too tight and it pulls along the back shoulders and it's like not great. So I did actually go ahead and I put on like kind of the bra I would probably wear with it, and I put on my like under stuff. So it is a bit like big in the back here. You can see it's not like as form-fitting as like it could be. The front is actually pretty form-fitting, but I'm actually not really worried about that because, as I said, I am most likely going to wear this just tucked into a skirt basically at all times. So actually let's go ahead and see what it looks like just tucked into my lounge pants because, you know, we're classy here. So let's just pretend. I did actually put on my waspy. I forget if I mentioned that. I did put on my waspy just to kind of see, because that is like typically how I would wear it, and I would normally wear it cinched with a belt, which I did not pull out, but you can see like you can't even tell that it's like a little bit big here once it's actually tucked in. So I think that, so you can see here, sorry about the close-up on the boobs, but I think I actually did a pretty good job getting all of like this V done, because that was kind of a tricky part of the pattern. I love that I have the different like collar, or I keep calling it a collar, it's a cuff. I love the different color like cuff or whatever. It is like, it feels like this part is significantly shorter and this part is quite a bit longer. So when I like curve out kind of like this, it actually falls like really nicely. But I think this is actually gonna be good because I have a lot of mobility, and it actually like this can go up over my bicep and like I still have plenty of room, which that is one thing that I get with some of my tighter woven 50s stuff, is that I teach and I have to like reach up and like do a bunch of stuff, and I actually prefer things that are more fitted in the bodice but that are looser in the arms, because that's where I have like the most mobility. So so we've got cute little puffy sleeve, and then we've got our back, so you can see the back collar here. So officially, the last thing that we have to do before I can actually like try on the entire thing together is I have to do the giant bow. And honestly, like I could potentially see myself making one of these like without the bow, but I just really want the giant bow. Like I just want it. So we're gonna work on the bow now. Good morning. So it is the next day. Apologies for the super shiny face. I just finished my skincare, but I had an idea in the shower. So let me back up. Last night, I actually finished the bow and getting the bow on the Mariner top before I left for my Korean class. Now, I fully intended to basically get up this morning and shower and get ready and then do the reveal. So try everything on and film the wrap up and like call this video good. However, while I was in the shower, I had the most brilliant idea. Okay, we're gonna go with I think it's a brilliant idea, but it does kind of create more work for myself and it's not fully necessary, but I think it's gonna be amazing. So hear me out. I wanted to have a black skirt to wear with this. However, I don't currently have one. I would have to actually make it. And so I was planning on just wearing my gray circle skirt, which is my go-to one. It's honestly like, I probably wear it like 2 times a week. Like it is my favorite. I definitely need to make more because I wear them like all the time. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm not gonna make a new skirt, because if I made a skirt, I would still probably need to make a petticoat. I need a petticoat. I don't have a petticoat for my gray skirt. So I was in the shower this morning and I was like, wait a minute. What if I made a petticoat that just had the bottom ruffle portion used the pumpkin fabric from my shirt so it would like tie in? And then I was thinking, well, I actually have this random cut of fabric that I got from the fabric store. So basically I went to get fabric for my cinch-it dresses and we like went through the fabric and we got to basically right at the end of the yardage that I needed. And there was just this like expanse of white fabric and we're like, where did this come from? That's super weird. And so the woman who was working there like cut it off and she like folded it up and whatever. And she was like, would you use this? And I was like white cotton fabric? Absolutely, I would have a use for this eventually, please. So I grabbed it, took it home, put it in my stash, and I was thinking this morning, I was like, well, if I do kind of a wide enough ruffle, it'll like, if you see anything, you'll just see kind of a white petticoat, but the bottom part is gonna be this pumpkin. And because there is like kind of white on the pumpkin, like it wouldn't be the end of the world. And it would mean that I could use stuff that I have in my stash, I wouldn't have to go buy any fabric, and I would have a matching petticoat to wear with this particular top. So, that's what we're gonna try and do today. Let me take you over to the table. I actually, as soon as I got out of the shower, I like pulled out some stuff and started to do some calculations to see if this was gonna be feasible. Cause I was like, you know, if I can't use like this particular fabric that I wanna use, I feel like I might not end up doing it because like I really don't, like I have nice fabric that I don't wanna use for something like a petticoat, you know what I mean? So I think this is gonna work. We'll see, but I'm gonna show you kind of like what my plan of action is and I'll show you kind of behind the scenes of how I plan out things like this because it's a little bit haphazard, but I don't know, maybe it'll be helpful. So let's head on over. So this is what we are currently working with. Let me move this. So this is the fabric that I got and you can actually see at the bottom here, this is the cinch-it dress that I have. So I need to give this a good press and I'm actually gonna have to do a little bit of futzing with everything. So basically I have decided that I wanna do a half circle skirt under my full circle skirt and do a ruffle at the bottom, okay? So basically what I ended up doing to kind of make this, like figure this out, is I did a couple of measurements and sketches. So basically I took my gray circle skirt and I measured how tall my waistband is and how long my actual skirt is. So my waistband is 1 inch and my skirt length is actually 29 inches. So I was like, okay, I want my petticoat then to have an inch waistband because that'll like sit underneath. And then I want it to be 28 inches long. So it is just an inch shorter than my actual skirt because like when you move and stuff, you'll see it, but like I don't want it actually like peeking out like all the time, I guess. So then after I did this, because I want to have a ruffle, I broke it up to like how big I wanted the ruffle versus the like main body of the skirt to be. So I originally was going to go with 25 inches for the skirt and 3 inches for the ruffle. But then I was like, wait, because this petticoat is actually going to be white, I want to have a 4-inch ruffle just so that it's like, you know what I mean? Like I have more of my fashion fabric if it does kind of like kick up and show than the white fabric. So I used a calculator. I actually found a calculator from here. Let me show you. So it's by Hand London. Oh my gosh. So here, I basically just have the calculator that I used over here. I know this is not like a fancy way of doing this, but so I put in my waist measurement. I put in how long of a skirt I wanted. And then I like did the calculations for a half circle skirt. So I have down here sort of my calculations for that. So the diagram that they gave me is I basically, for my waist measurement, I have a radius of 9¼ inches, and then the length is 34¼ and that gives me a 25-inch skirt, which is actually, their finished measurements are a 24-inch skirt because it's 1/2 or 5/8 seam allowance, right? Plus like your waistband or whatever. But that works out for me because I want a 24-inch skirt with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So that gives me my 25 inches here. So I can actually just use this measurement. And then I'm going to be adding a ruffle, which is going to get me the rest of the length that I need. So I worked with 1/2 inch seam allowances for all of this just because it was easier to do the math. So basically a 24-inch skirt, I add a 1/2 inch at the top and a 1/2 inch at the bottom for seam allowance. That gives me 25. Then my ruffle, I have 4-inch ruffle plus 1/2 inch. So I actually changed this. I wanted to do a 4-inch ruffle, so 1/2 inch at the top, and then I wanted to have a deeper hem, so I put 1.5 inches at the bottom. So I actually added 2 inches total, and you can see this reflected in my measurements, and I did actually like write down what I wanted to do. So my ruffle is going to be actually 6 inches. And then I also just did a quick measurement for my waistband. So basically 2 inch tall because you fold it over in half plus 1/2 inch seam allowance. That gives me 3 inches for the height. And then the width is, I gave it 31 plus a 1/2 inch seam allowance just so I have a little bit of wiggle room to like kind of take things in or not if I need to. So that's going to give me 3 inches by 32 inches for the waistband. Now I am definitely going to have to do, so I haven't decided if I'm going to do a zipper or if I'm just going to do like a some kind of like button or hook and eye closure at the waistband and then just like leave the gap so I can actually get it on like open, because it is a petticoat. You're never going to see it. Like I'm never going to wear this as an actual skirt. So like it doesn't need to be perfectly finished, and not having a second zipper would kind of reduce bulk in some places. So basically as I did this, I then also, grabbed one of my like super pale pencils, and I actually kind of sketched out, so I don't even know if you're gonna be able to see this because it's literally yellow. Oh, you can, kind of can. So I actually sketched out my top radius here, and I went down to the bottom. Oops, and I went down to the bottom here. So the kind of thing I have to do next before I can actually do like my cutting out and everything is, first thing, I have this like weird tacked together section and it has a lot of overlap. So what I'm actually going to do is I am going to give this all a good press. I am going to, I don't know exactly how I want to do this yet. I think maybe what I want to do is give it a good press, separate it, serge the raw edges, and then sew it together at a smaller seam allowance and press open, because then I get a little bit more length and it's not quite so bulky, is kind of the plan. But then the other thing I have to do is I'm actually missing like a couple of inches. So up at this corner, I'm missing a couple of inches. So basically I can take my 34¼ kind of all the way around, basically up until I get to like here-ish, and I'm missing a little bit. So what I want to do is fix this bottom edge here so that I have like a little bit more length, and then I'm basically going to measure down and cut it off and like square off this fabric, and then reattach up at the top here so that I have the like extra width that I'm gonna need for both sides. So this is gonna take like a little bit, and then we're gonna see. So the other thing is for the ruffle, I'm gonna use this fabric, and my plan is, because it's gonna be a gathered ruffle, I can just cut it on a straight strip because the top is gonna be gathered in to fit around the circle skirt, and it'll give me that flare out. So I can't really cut anything yet until I do my half circle skirt, and then I can measure the like the diameter of this circle, like the bottom of my circle skirt or half circle. I can measure that and figure out how long I want to do for the ruffle is kind of the plan. So basically what I'll do is I will cut all of my ruffles from selvage to selvage, so I have strips this way so the pumpkins are going the right direction, and I actually have a fair bit of fabric left. So I'm hoping that even if I do this, I'll be able to do something else with this, but I figured this would be a good use for it because like I don't really need to use this for something else. Like how many pumpkin like themed tops do I actually need? But having a matching petticoat with this is just gonna like tie it in so much better. So that is the plan, and I don't think that I'm gonna film as much of the petticoat just because I really do need to kind of get it done. So I will try and pop in periodically and give you kind of status updates. But yeah, I'm really excited because I was just feeling like this was missing something, and I originally was like, okay, well maybe like some sort of hat or something like that, because I feel like in the 50s there's a lot of like hats happening, and because I obviously don't have the hair to do a 50s hairstyle, like that would be a cool thing to do. But realistically, like I do wear hats, like that's not the issue, I do wear hats, but realistically I would get a lot more use out of a matching petticoat. Like a lot more is relative, but like, you know what I mean, I would get a lot more use out of a matching petticoat, and this would actually be a really good test for me to see how this works, because I do ultimately need to make like a black or a gray or something like that for my gray skirt, because I don't actually have a petticoat. So this would be a like low risk way for me to test out if this particular like idea I have for a petticoat, like a half circle skirt with a ruffle, if that's actually going to work. And if it does, cool, full steam ahead. I can use other fabric to do one for like an everyday wear, but then I would also have a Halloween themed one. So really excited. Yes, this is making more work for myself 2 days before Halloween. It's no big deal. Like, isn't this just the way that we go? So yeah, I am gonna get started and I will check back in a little later. So just a quick update. I cut off the bottom edge of the fabric. So I actually re-sewed all of the bigger lines, and I cut off the bottom and added it to the side here so that I actually have enough room to fit my entire circle skirt with very little waist. I think I'll actually even be able to do my waistband from this section over here, so I won't even have to use this little bit that is dyed of like the original fabric color, so it'll all be in white. So now it's gonna be time to cut everything out, and then I can measure and figure out how long to do my ruffle. So we are moving right along. I cut out the main part of my petticoat, and I have just serged all of my raw edges since I had some weird little like flaps of like seam allowance from putting everything together. I also went ahead and cut out my waistband so I can mess around with that a little bit later. And the last thing that I've just finished cutting out are the strips to do my ruffle. So I basically did a little bit of math, which is never fun, but necessary. So, oops. All right, can I open the page? So on the back over here, I just made a couple of little notes. So basically, I measured the bottom sort of circumference of my skirt, which was 108 inches, which put double that long to do the ruffle at 217. So I basically 216 plus 1 for seam allowance. And then I measured across the top of my fabric. So I had 21 times 2 because it was folded in half, so I had 42 inches per block, and I actually did subtract this. Like I'm actually going to serge off this little bit just because I don't want to actually see that in case it's not like all of my seam allowance. So I ended up doing, oh nerds, okay, nope, this is gonna be fine, it's totally fine. So basically I then did 217 divided by 42, and 5 would put me just at 210, so I cut out 6, which is good because I'm also going to lose half an inch of seam allowance on each side in order to make my full ruffle. So the next step now is actually going to be, I'm going to serge all my raw edges, and in doing so, I'm gonna just cut off my selvage so I won't have this like white bit of fabric. And then after that, I'm going to connect all of my strips into one long strip because I've decided that the way I want to do this is I'm actually going to attach the ruffle to the skirt before I sew the back seam together. I'm going to go ahead and just like do all of that in like sort of one long line. So yeah, we are up to the ruffle. So I think what I'll do is I'll attach everything, leave one side open, obviously. I think then I'm going to go ahead and do my bottom hem, and then I will work on doing my gathering stitches and attaching it to the skirt. So let's do that. So a little update. I am currently working on the ruffle. So I've got 6 really long strips that I have just serged together to basically get rid of the selvage and just to kind of connect them. I was originally going to sew them and then open up the seams, but I realized that for gathering, it would probably be easier to just go ahead and do it like this. So I have done a 1/4 inch fold on the bottom, and I am currently working on doing, as you can see the bits I finished, a 3/4 inch fold that I will then go ahead and sew to get my hem, and then I will be ready to do the gathering stitches, which I am trying to decide. I think what I'm going to do is actually do the gathering stitches, attach it to the bottom of the skirt, and then serge the two together. So I'm not going to probably serge this before I do that, just I think it'll be a little bit more secure. So that is what we're up to. It is ever so long because, as you can see, I've got this much done. Oops. Oops, and that much left to go. Okay, so I am making really good progress. As you can see, I have my ruffle, my ruffle over here. So I've got the bottom hemmed, I've got 2 lines of gathering stitches along the front. I actually have this like ludicrously orange thread that I bought for a different project without bringing the fabric in, and so when I got home I realized it was like 100% not the right color, but it's perfect for this fabric, so I've been using it. So this thing is really freaking long. It's basically a little more than twice the length of the bottom circumference of my skirt, so like it's gonna take us a hot second. So my plan now is to basically open out my skirt up, and do, let's see, we're gonna do right sides up, and it's gonna fall off the edge most likely. We'll try not to. So basically my plan is to start gathering, and then after I've got it gathered for a bit, I am going to start attaching it all the way around. And what I'm gonna end up doing is, and this is actually gonna go, this end is gonna go on the far other side of the skirt, but what I'm gonna basically do is stick my selvage edge off the edge of my thing. So basically when I actually lined it up, obviously it's gonna be more like this, but when I actually line it up, I'm actually gonna line up so that my selvage is sticking out of the corners, so that all of this like white selvage will get chopped off and I'll just have the pumpkins left. So yeah, it's time to gather. So I have got my ruffle gathered. I haven't actually tested to see if it is even close to the right length, because what I'm actually gonna do first is mark out the quarters on my skirt so that I have like some inkling of where things need to end up. I'm gonna basically just take, I've got a little bit of a chalk pencil. Unfortunately, I love these, but they kind of are not very like hardy. And so they break kind of frequently. So I'm gonna just like make sure all my bottom hem, or my bottom edge rather, is lined up. And okay, so wait a second, we are doing it on right sides, which means that I need to mark this, oops, right here. Okay, so let's just like give it a good, so that is my halfway point, and then I'm gonna fold again and I'm gonna get my quarters. Just because this is so long that I honestly think I'll just kind of lose track of where I'm going, and I want to kind of know like where it's gonna need to end up. Okay, so trying to keep everything sort of lined up. All right, so that is basically at quarters. So I've got my 2 open ends here, and then I need to do, right, we're just gonna pin it because then I can open it up. Oh no, as I pin myself, that's cool. There, oops, and there. Okay, so now, right sides. Okay, so now I'm gonna make a mark, whoops, make a mark where I put my pin. It's like close enough, you know what I mean? Like it's gathered, it's close enough. And then my other one. So now that I've got my quarters marked on the skirt, I need to try and mark the quarters on this, which I am now realizing I 100% should have done before it was gathered, but whoops. Didn't think about that. Do as I say, not as I do, you know. All right, so this is gonna be kind of approximate, but I just need to have like a rough starting point so I can sort of readjust my ruffles as needed. I also have kind of a weird thing where I ran out of thread on my first line, so like 2/3 of it are ruffled in one piece, and then the last third of the top thread is actually in, whoops, come on, is actually a second piece of thread. So that little section, I'm like kind of worried is gonna ruffle weird, but we'll figure it out. And honestly, this is a petticoat. You're really not gonna see that much of the ruffle. Like it's not gonna be super obvious as if it were like the waistline of a dress or something, like, you know what I mean? Like it'll be fine. Okay, so there, that is roughly, so we're gonna do a little mark here. And actually, you know what? I think I'm gonna pin these because I'm gonna end up having to pin it anyhow, all right, so then you go, I'm gonna do the mark anyway, but I'm also gonna pin it. Okay, just because on this fabric in particular, I'm gonna just lose my pins, or like lose the mark. I'm not gonna be able to find it. Okay, so there, you did not go through very much, cool. And then my halfway bit was here. Okay, so I've got all of this pinned. So now, this is always the like most obnoxious part. Now I have to get everything pinned to the skirt. Probably should have opened out my table. Didn't really think that through, it's fine. Okay, so I am doing, right, so right sides together. Oh my gosh, it's so long. The gathering threads are literally just like 3 meters long. So basically I am going to go and pin. So I'm gonna pin, so wait a second. I'm gonna actually sew from this side. So I'm gonna do my pins facing out, which is always a poor choice, but that's just the way it goes because I'm a lefty. So I basically, when I do my pins, I do it so I can pull my pins out with my left hand as I'm sewing, but it also means that they are pointing towards like where I'm using my hand to like get everything through for stitching, and so I stab myself a bunch. So I'm actually gonna put 2 in just because I want it to be a little bit like more stable. And then I'm gonna do, oh no, wait, hold on a second. Here's another long, where's the end? Oh my gosh, what's happening? What on earth is going on? What the heck? Okay, here. Here. All right, so now that's the other end, obviously. And actually I'm gonna go around because I gathered it, I tried to gather it tighter than I'm gonna need it, is kind of the end game here. So that, which I don't actually know if I did that. I might not have done. Oh, hold on, I need to go get some scissors because all of my little threads are, all my threads are getting in the way and making it so it's kind of hard to see what I'm doing. So we're just gonna trim those off. Okay. So, ooh, look at that. That's actually just, oh, sorry, you can't see. So that's actually just a tiny bit shorter than I need it to be. So we're gonna just kind of, I'm not like messing around with stuff super much right now, just because I kind of want to get it like sorted on my skirt and then sort of fuss around with it. Okay, so I need to do this. And I think what I'm gonna do is basically at all of my quarters, I'm gonna do 2 pins, just because I think it'll be a tiny bit easier to see. So you can see here, I've actually got like extra fabric, but I'm gonna wait until I finish going through and just like make sure everything's turned the right way and all of that. All right, so now where's my halfway? There, okay. And then this one is here. So yeah, so I kind of went quite ham on the gathering, just because I have noticed that it is easier for me to like pull out gathers than it is for me to like reform gathers when I've already started pinning it, if that makes sense. And again, I am not an expert at gathering. It's one of those things that I always think is like something that really shouldn't take that long because you're just squishing up fabric to make it shorter, but it also does always take like a stupid long time. So, but the end result is so good. So you know what, it's like generally worth it. So just as kind of a mood thing, I've also been, so basically whenever I am doing any sort of like time lapse in this video, or when I'm just kind of off and sewing, I have actually been listening to like spooky type content. So one of the things that I actually just finished a little bit ago is a book by Agatha Christie, which I had actually never heard of before. Sorry, I'm not like trying to put the scissors at you. It was actually a book I had never heard of, and I heard about it on Darling Desi's channel, who's been kind of one of my like cozy fall like go-to channels lately. And I love reading Agatha Christie. I've read honestly quite a lot of her books. I am a super fan of Miss Marple. I don't dislike Poirot, whoops, but I actually just like really enjoy Miss Marple because Like everybody underestimates her, and she like takes 10,000 years to finish telling a story, and like she just kind of knows like human nature and all of that. Like I just love her. She's been my favorite ever since I was a kid, which I don't know what that says about me, but basically you should know I'm kind of a grandma. It's fine. So I was like kind of shocked that there was this like Halloween story, or like kind of spooky story that of Agatha Christie's that I like didn't know about. And so I obviously immediately got the audiobook from the library, and I actually managed to find an audiobook version that had both Crooked House and Endless Night together. And I had actually never read Crooked Night either, or no, sorry, Crooked House, not Crooked Night, I'm just like combining the two. I'd actually never read Crooked House either. So I listened to Crooked House as I was walking up to, well, when I was walking up and around the cemetery earlier this week, which if you're on Instagram, you might have seen me like posting about that, because I had kind of made myself a little bit of a Halloween like bucket list. I'm definitely gonna have to move these pins. It's fine, we'll make it work. Okay, so basically now that I've got things pinned, I'm gonna work from my center pin, and I'm going to like even out all of my gathers. And I realize now that I have like a decent amount that I have to kind of give out the ease, like it's a little bit too tight, which is fine. I actually like intentionally only did the ruffle as double because I don't wanna be like super not textured, but like under the skirt, I still want the skirt to lie like nice. I just want to have a little bit of a floof, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna have to kind of pin and like make my way a little bit looser, and I'll kind of work from the middle out on both sides until I've got it sort of where I want it. And I will say that I'm not always the like greatest about being neat with the ruffles. I will frequently get little like tiny folds, and as long as they're not too bad, I will 100% leave them because they just look like little pleats, and it honestly does not bother me. Like this one is honestly one that if I hadn't noticed it and I just pinned it, I would have had a little pleat there, and like I would have been fine with it. You know what I mean? Like it's whatever. Done is better than perfect, because perfection usually just never gets finished, and we are all about actually finishing projects in this house. Most of the time. So anyway, so I was listening to Crooked House as I walked up to the cemetery, and I ended up finishing it that night because obviously like my walk was kind of long, but it was not like an entire audiobook long. This is actually the point where I have 2 sets of gathering threads because I ran out of thread on the top one. Anyway, it's fine. So I finished that one, and it was so good. Like if you don't know these books, like I highly recommend reading them if you like Agatha Christie, because oh my gosh, they were so good. I mean, I am obviously biased. I love Agatha Christie stuff. And then I just was listening to Endless Night as I was working on this, and actually yesterday when I was filming and working on the top, I was actually listening to this new to me podcast. So a friend of mine was telling me about it because I really love drunk women solving crime, but I've like listened to so many that I'm up to, for a while I only had like 5 left, and then I kind of let it go to kind of like not catch up. Like I didn't want to catch up basically. And so, all right, come on guys. Need threads, come on. All right, we need to like, okay, so I think I'm actually gonna have to take out a little bit here. There. Because I don't want to undo like too much kind of in the center. So basically my ends are going to be the center back, like where I've got the opening to the skirt, that's going to be probably my center back. All right, let's see how that goes. Right, what was I talking about? Where's my little mark? I took the pin out and now I can't find it, which is why I did the pin. Oh, there it is. Okay, so actually we're pretty close. I was talking about, oh right, so I was catching up on Drunk Women Solving Crime, and so I was kind of like saving the episodes just so I would never like fully catch up, and I would always have a couple episodes that I could listen to. And so a friend of mine who like obviously knows that I like listening to true crime podcasts was like, oh, have you heard of this one called Rotten Mango? And I was like, no. And so I listened to it, and I'm obsessed. And the thing is, like, I have to like the presenters. I mean, I feel like this is kind of common. I have to like the presenters of the podcast. So wait, hold on. I've got like a quarter of it done. That's gonna be so cute. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's
leave that. Okay, so now I'm actually just gonna do this half and then I'll go around and do the next half, and I'll probably just do this half with you all and then do the next half on my own. So I feel like this is common, but I really need to like the presenter. So like one of the reasons that I like Drunk Women Solving Crime is because the women are like actually just hysterical. The guests are typically really, really good. There's only ever been like maybe a handful of guests that I was like, oh, that was kind of whatever. But like most of the time I love the guests. And so with this one, I was like, okay, I don't exactly know what like it is going in or whatever. But basically Rotten Mango is like all of like the gruesome like murders and stuff, and like going really into like just everything that happened and this, that, and the other. But the thing that I like the most is that the presenter, Stephanie Sue, so apparently she has a YouTube channel and she does like mukbang, like true murders, which I actually have not, like I hadn't watched it. And I like have nothing against like listening to true crime while I eat, honestly, does not bother me, which I think just says something about our society. It's fine, whatever. But I actually like have not really gotten into that because I typically like, I don't really necessarily want to like watch a video. I like to listen to podcasts while I'm working on stuff, and like, so anyway. But what I really like is that she just sounds like the sweetest, like almost like a Valley Girl sort of thing as she's like talking about these gruesome murders. And like, honestly, that juxtaposition is one of my favorite things. Also, she's just so funny. Like, she is so funny. She does like really good research, and it's always like in this, like, so I'm currently listening to one that's about the Unabomber, and like it's basically going into like all of like the stuff behind it and this, that, and the other, and she's always like tries to be very respectful of like the victims and all of that. And she's like, you know, they say like you shouldn't give serial killers like catchy nicknames because it like gives them more power or whatever. So she's just been calling him the Unaboober throughout. And at one point she's like, I hope the victims like wouldn't think that I'm like trying to minimize, like I just don't think we should like give him that power or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I really like the way that like she does her podcast. So I have currently been listening to her podcasts, and they're great because they're like slightly longer than an hour, which is like my sweet spot. Like I make long videos, and that is because I like watching sort of long form content, and like honestly 30 minutes to an hour is sort of like where my sweet spot is depending on like what I'm actually like doing. So yeah, that has been keeping me company while I make my spooky, oh my gosh, while I make my spooky little 50s outfit, which is fantastic. Okay, ooh, yes, okay, I think we're good. So one of the things with this ruffle, I initially was like, oh, do I need to do it as like a, whoops, there's already a pin there. I was like, do I need to do it sort of as a, like on a curve, because this is a half circle skirt. And then I was like, no, it should be fine because I'm doing like, it's gonna be so like ruffled. It should just kind of flip out and do what it's supposed to do. So I am gonna go ahead and go back to listening to my podcast, and I'm going to work on getting the other half of the skirt all done up. And so then my next step is gonna be, so I have like this sort of system down, which is usually how they say in patterns, so it's not like a magical thing that I like came up with or whatever, but typically what I like to do is I go through and I will stitch everything with my sewing machine, and then I will go back, like once I've kind of flipped the ruffle over and I've just checked that there's nothing like super weird, then I will serge everything together and then I'll press it. And so I will most likely do top stitching. Typically I will do top stitching, so basically when I flip it over, oops, like when you flip it over, I will press the ruffle and all the seam allowances up towards the skirt, and then I'll do top stitching in the white. So I'll have this really pretty orange top stitching just along the white part of my petticoat. So yeah, so I will come back in a bit with another update. All right, update time. So I have got my ruffle attached. I have serged both edges together and I've just finished my top stitch, which is not perfectly straight, but that is okay. And honestly, I'm like pretty excited with how this is looking. So wait, hold on a second. Oh, so this is kind of what she's looking like. I did just a quick sort of informal test just to make sure that it didn't look like the edge of this would stick out past the edge of my skirt, and it looks like it's gonna be okay. So I think the next step is actually gonna be to attach the waistband. I do at some point need to serge off the edges of this, but I think I might actually be able, you know what, actually, I think first what I'll do is I'm gonna serge the edges of this, and then I'm going to attach the waistband, and then I'm gonna kind of see about doing the closure. But actually, because I've already hemmed everything, basically once I figure out the closure, especially because I'm like 95% certain I'm not putting a zipper in, we're actually getting pretty close to finishing, which means I can do a reveal, so yay.
So I think this is going to be the last update before I do the reveal, because we're getting really close, and honestly I did not expect this to take as long as it did. Granted, I've been listening to audiobooks and podcasts, so it's fine, whatever, like I'm on holiday, but like this was an unexpected side to this project, but I'm honestly really excited I went for it. So I got the waistband on, so if you can see here, I actually just top stitched it in orange. You are not gonna see this like at all in any way. So I was like, just go for it. It's what was on my machine. I also actually went ahead and I put a little, so my waistband is 1 inch. So I just put a little section of like beige canvas in, and it goes basically up to about here, and I did it on both sides because I didn't want to do interfacing on this because I didn't want to just like interface the entire thing. But I think what I'm gonna do, and I'm actually at the point where I have to basically put on the foundation garments that I'm gonna be wearing and try it on, is I think I'm actually gonna do a button and a buttonhole, just because, I don't know. I could do a hook and eye. That's another possibility, and I haven't like entirely decided yet, but I'm gonna kind of see how that goes after. So basically I just put the little bit of canvas in there on both sides to reinforce, and then I top stitched around the entire thing, because the thing is I need it to be strong enough to withhold like, or withstand rather, whatever closure I use, but I also don't want it to be super thick because this is going under my waistband, like under the waistband of my skirt, and I don't want it to be super bulky. So there's that. Then I went ahead and I stitched up the back seam. So you can see here, I actually just did it down 9 inches, which is basically what I do when I make my circle skirts, except for normally I would put a zipper in here. So I'm gonna have a bit of an overlap over here. It's, this waistband is probably only 1.5 inches or so, like there's probably 1 inch or 1.5 inches like overlap that I'll have. So it's not gonna overlap like too much, but I have to try it on and figure out where I'm gonna put my closure. So, and because this is fairly thin cotton, I don't think it's gonna be like super awkward even just having this sort of like opening or whatever. And then I just went ahead and I sewed my back seam together, which I actually did sew it with orange thread. And then the last thing that I did is I actually just tacked down the very bottom hem at the back, just so that it wouldn't like be flappy or whatever, but you like really can't see it, so I wasn't worried about having it be like a perfect circle. That's why I did it like flat and then put it together with the back seam. So that means that my Halloween petticoat is actually done minus the closure. So yeah, I will be back and I will be showing you how the entire outfit looks together. So see you soon. Okay, so apologies in advance. This is not going to be a super fancy reveal because I just don't really film those kinds of things. Maybe I'll get there eventually, but I have actually only got part of this on because I had to show you what the petticoat looked like on, and I kind of need to put the top on to do that. So here is the top all finished, but just wait, hold on. Do you see how cute this petticoat is? I am gonna go ahead and put the skirt on so that we can see everything all together, but I'm so excited with how this is coming together. So I hope that you're ready for this because It's so cute. So first of all, I did not actually put on the tights just because it's gonna be so hard to see them on camera, and like the skirt is so long, it's not really gonna make a difference for you, but these are the tights that I'm actually going to wear with this outfit. I got them from SNAG tights and they're so cute. Their Halloween stuff is limited edition, so if you're like looking for something like this, you might have to wait until next year, but yeah, like how cute is that gonna be? So, are you ready? So here is the final look with, wait, like it's kind of like you just see a little bit of the petticoat underneath. So yeah, I'm honestly so happy. So I don't know if I could have made this like stand up anymore for the bow, but I think it's actually fine. But like, oh my gosh. So let's do a twirl test. So wait, I think I have to put it down. So wait, can you see? Yes, okay, so let's do a twirl test where you can see the bottom. Oh my gosh. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of a wrap up. First things first, I am so happy with how both of these came out. I am also honestly really happy that I took the time to make the petticoat because one, I actually think this is gonna work really well under my circle skirts. I do kind of want to wear it around and like just kind of see how it works. And I do think that so I made this particular circle skirt out of gray raw silk, so it's this one. And it is like kind of a bit floppier, if you will, than some other materials that I might use for a skirt. And so you can kind of sometimes see where like the skirt settles into the point just where the petticoat and like the ruffle meet. But I think it actually works really well, and the fact that it is a half circle skirt, like so one of the things is, and you'll see this when I repost my Vaguely Vintage videos, is I did make a 50s style crinoline out of tulle, and it was just kind of like, it was the first time I'd ever made it. I would change so many things when I went back, like if I ever go back and do it, which I think I might actually at some point. It's working with tulle is kind of a pain in the butt, but one of the biggest things that I really disliked was how I made the underskirt. It like just rode up constantly. And so I actually really like having an underskirt that's long enough and heavy enough that it's not gonna actually ride up. And I think that's one of the reasons that I really like my linen petticoat, is like it adds a little bit of floof. It's perfect for everyday wear, but it's not gonna like ride up and like create a weird bunching situation. Also this, like I ended up doing a hook and eye on the back, and like it works perfectly. Like it works so well. And I think part of that is just I'm getting better at doing these kinds of skirts. And I also have a waspy now, so that I wear that and it just like kind of, you know, like the human body wants to like squish and move, and like it just kind of keeps things so that I don't put strain anywhere on my skirt that I don't want it to have strain. It doesn't really, like, it's not a corset or anything. It doesn't actually really reduce like in any way, shape, or form. It just kind of keeps things like in the same place, if you will. And I think that's actually making it a lot easier for me to make these skirts, because then I have measurements that are actually like a lot more accurate. And so when I was able to do the hook and eye with this, like it seems like it's gonna be totally fine. So that's good news, because I definitely do want to make another circle skirt and probably another petticoat at some point. So if I had more fabric, I think it would have been nice to do like another partial layer with the pumpkins. However, with how much fabric I had left, it was like not quite enough to do the entire not quite enough. Really not enough to do the entire petticoat out of. And also, like, if I did more than just this ruffle, I wouldn't have had any, like, I would have had like a weird amount left to do another project. So I'm glad I did what I did for this, but I think in future, like most of the time, I'm gonna make a petticoat that has a ruffle that's made of the same material, just like it's gonna be easier and it's gonna look nicer in case, you know, things fly up or whatever. But with this one, because there are accents on the top in like cream, white, and silver-ish, it's not like the end of the world if anyone sees the white part of my petticoat. And also, like, I'm so glad that I came up with such a good use for that fabric, because it was literally free. There's like these giant puncture marks from whatever like thing they did to put like the pieces together, that like, I'm glad it's not, like, it was never gonna be something that I could see, but I'm glad it wasn't just like I muslined something and I used this fabric. Like I actually made something that I needed and wanted. So the only other thing that I would potentially have left to do, and I honestly think I'm not going to, because it is already 2:45 on Friday. So I basically I did about 3.5 hours on this top a week ago Friday. I did another couple of hours, maybe 3 hours. I'm looking at my calendar. I think I did another like 3-ish hours yesterday to finish up the top because I had a couple of like things I needed to deal with. Oh good, I've already messed up my nails. That's awesome. Anyway, and then I have been sewing off and on. Oh, I really did. Whoops. I've been sewing off and on all day today on the petticoat. So I honestly, like, I have other stuff I have to do with my life. I actually really need to have like a YouTube day and like all that kind of stuff. So I just don't think I'm gonna have time to do a black skirt. But as you saw in the reveal portion, like, I don't think it looks bad to have the skirt in gray. Like, I think it looks totally good. Like, it's, yeah, like a black skirt would probably be slightly better, but like it works really well. And like there are gray accents on my top. Like the tights that I'm gonna wear are black and silver. Like I'm gonna wear black shoes. Like it's gonna be great. So this is my Halloween costume for this year. If we're being, oh, I'm so sad. I've already messed up my nail. Oh my gosh, it's not gonna focus. I've already messed up my nails. Dang it. This is what happens when I do my nails and then immediately start sewing, as I probably jabbed it on like a pin or something like that and I managed to snag it, and so now I'm gonna have to try and file it. Anyway, getting distracted. So yes, this is going to be my Halloween costume, and like truthfully, we'll probably also wear this to work. Like it's not, you know what I mean? Like it's very Halloween themed, but it's not like necessarily explicitly a costume. I will have to see, because I do think that for work I am not gonna wear it like this. I think I'll wear it like this for the party, but I'm gonna have to try it on with like one of my Axis tanks under top, which is just a crew neck, and I have them in black, and so I would just have like kind of a black thing here, just because like for work I'm not super comfortable with going in with this like low cut of a shirt, but I do think that it's a really, really nice top and all of that. I think it would be fun to make again potentially, but it's also like, I think I'm glad that I did it for this project, because this is such like an over-the-top shirt that having the low cut is fine, because I also know this is not something I'm gonna wear like every single day. You know what I mean? Like, I think that if I had gone for a normal fabric, I would have made it and then realized that I'm honestly not gonna wear this every day. You know what I mean? Like if this were a higher cut bodice, that would be a different story, but because it is cut like this, like I'm just realistically not gonna wear it all the time, and so I'm not mad about it, because this is a special event top. You know what I mean? Like it's a special event top. You don't just like wear this every day. At least I won't. But yeah, so, and I think that there might be a way for me to take like aspects of this. Like I wonder if there's a way that I could like add fabric to the neckline and make it more of like a crew neck, and like take off the collar, for example. Like, I don't know, that's something for future me to figure out. But yeah, so I am done with this project. I now have to try and go through and edit a whole bunch of footage, because I would love to get this up for y'all for Halloween, because that's on Sunday. And yeah, I hope that if you celebrate and or are doing something, that you have fun and you stay safe. And if not, I hope you enjoyed some kind of chaotic sewing content. So if you have any comments or questions, let me know down below. I will try and link everything that I talked about, because I did specifically use, not for the petticoat, but for the top I used a specific pattern. So if you're interested in this pattern, I'll link it down below. I can also link the like circle skirt calculator that I use, in case you're curious, because I definitely did not do all that math on my own. So that is all I have. I will see you in my next video. Bye.